Yes, old friends, and welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 2 of the Information Zone, and I'm your host, Gabrielson. Now, today we're going to talk about something. I've been getting a lot of emails and a lot of talk about my last podcast, the first one, and a lot of people were saying, Gabe, what is your accent? Your accent sounds unfamiliar and it's unbecoming on you, and it doesn't sound like a real accent or a real English accent. So today I thought I would just kind of go over where the style of my speak came from. You see, I was raised in Staffordshire. Staffordshire, Vermont. That's where I was born. That's where I hail from. So I will explain to you how I got such a peculiar sounding accent when I come from the United States. You see, it was maybe third grade, and I was in elementary school in my town in Staffordshire, Vermont. And we were watching a documentary, and the documentary was about Staffordshire, but it was Staffordshire, England, you see. And me, being a young boy, was watching this, and they said, this is about Staffordshire. And I had no idea, and I was just watching it, and I thought, this is about our town in Vermont. And so I was clueless, and I was watching all these people being interviewed, and they were all discussing things and talking, and they all had an English accent. And I said, well, why don't I speak like that? I am from Staffordshire. And so I started talking and in the way that I thought I was supposed to talk. And it wasn't till years later I met that third grade teacher. I must have been in my late 20s, and I saw her in a cafe, and she was saying, you know, when you were a child, I thought it was cute that you developed this accent after you watched that documentary. And she never corrected me on it, and she thought it was cute, but then she met me years later and she realized it had stuck with me all these years, and she had told me. And it wasn't until then I had realized that documentary was not about Staffordshire, Vermont, but indeed was about Staffordshire, England. And that just left me bewildered and stricken with grief. I didn't leave my flat for nearly 3 weeks, and eventually I decided this is the way I've spoken since third grade, and I'm not going to just stop now because of some idiotic third grade poor excuse for a teacher. And so that is how I grew into this accent. And a lot of times I meet people and they say, oh, that is quite lovely, and I appreciate that accent, and it's very unique, and it doesn't sound like something from anywhere in the world, and you know, I've grown quite accustomed to it, and now I've accepted it, and in fact I'm quite proud of it. And between you and I, it gets me lots of ladies. It gets me a fair deal of ladies. So, that's enough of that. Today we're going to talk about, or talk to someone who has been a family friend of mine for many years, and he is probably the main reason I got into podcasting in the first place, and the main reason I appreciated radio and television and all sorts of personalities from the nethersphere, if you will. So, my guest today is none other than a man you have probably heard of, a man of great integrity, a man of great class, a man of great how do you say, a man of great a man of great, a man of great stature in social circles that I look up to and admire. And this man is none other than Tom Brokaw from NBC Nightly News. He is actually on the line, and we are going to speak with him right now. Ladies and gentlemen, Tom Brokaw, if you will, come speak to my guest, please. Please speak to my guest.
Yes, Gabe Gabrielson. I heard your first podcast,
You did.
and it's actually quite excellent.
It is, thank you.
It reminds me of when I was in my heyday doing NBC Nightly News.
Oh, yes.
I wanted to talk with you about some things I've been doing lately with my time since leaving Nightly News. I've been walking the dog. I've been singing. I've joined the choir with my wife. We've been singing mostly Christmas songs and musicals from years past. But I've also been doing this representation of NBC Nightly News, where we take scripts and dialogue from the news shows, and we sing them in a chorus together. And people seem to like it, and it's been doing quite well.
Yes, I see, Tom Brokaw. That is actually quite interesting, and that's actually fascinating. And I myself have been getting into singing a little bit. I do a barbershop quartet with some of my friends, and they find it quite exhilarating. And I'm always pointing out to them that they're singing in the wrong key or they're singing the wrong notes, and they seem to be okay with it. But they can't quite keep up with me. I have always been quite a good singer, and normally I do. Normally. So you may find this bizarre, but normally when I get on stage, I like to sing with my pecker out. and I know that sounds crazy, and I know what you're thinking, but if I'm behind 20 or 30 people in the chorus line, there's no way they know my pecker's out, and it just exhilarates me, and it makes me sing more loudly and more on point, and people love it, and they have no idea, and they have no idea that my little pecker is out. I mean, my medium to big size pecker.
Big pecker.
How about you? Do you have any weird little stage gimmicks that you do, or anything you do while you're on stage that may not be of the norm?
Since doing NBC Nightly News, I never wore pants at all.
You wouldn't?
I would be sitting behind the desk, and I'd have a cup of coffee, and I'd have a suit jacket on, and a tie, and a long-sleeve collared shirt. But behind that desk, believe it or not, my pecker too indeed was out. I used to find it exhilarating, much like you maybe do when you're singing in your chorus line. It's just, it adds to the excitement.
It adds to the excitement.
Years of doing the same interviews over and over and doing the same, excuse me, I've also been smoking cigars since I left the news. After years of doing the same thing over and over, sometimes you have to add something to get a little bit of excitement.
Yes, I see. No, and I think actually the same thing. I find it quite pleasurable to be behind all these people and just have my little chute poking out of the front of my tuxedo pants. It's quite fun.
I find that to be quite fascinating that you do that.
Yes, and Tom, is there actually running short on time because I have to go pick up my laundry from the launderer. But if you could just maybe give my guests some words of advice if they're looking to become TV personalities or radio personalities or anything like that.
Well, when I was doing NBC Nightly News, I would often find it quite exhausting, but after years of succumbing and cashing those paychecks, you see,
Yes.
I found that the best thing you can do is just kind of agree with people and make them feel good about themselves.
Yes,
in
as
that
I-
way. If you're not agreeing with people, they're never going to call you and play golf with you. So
Right.
my biggest piece of advice, I guess, if you're doing a program like NBC Nightly News, is to just agree with people and compliment them and tell them they have nice clothes and nice and nice shoes.
Mr. Brokaw. Mr. Brokaw, are you okay?
Yes, I'm fine. I just cigars and a smoke, and I'm gonna have to let you go.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Tom Brokaw from NBC Nightly News, and he's feeling a bit under the weather, but hopefully he is feeling better soon. And I hope you guys got some good pieces of information from that and found it quite interesting and fascinating like I did, because I had never known that Tom Brokaw was wearing no pants under the desk the whole time. I had no idea. How would one know? How would one know? So, yeah. Excuse me. That's not quite as loud as the burp I heard on my flight to Venezuela, but it's close. It's close. Oh, it's foul. It smells foul. Okay. Anyway, so that was the podcast. That is the Information Zone, episode 2, and I'm your host, Gabe Gabrielson.